the scene that changed everything. Before audiences around the world began talking about the Michael biopic, there was one moment behind the scenes that convinced many people involved they were creating something truly extraordinary. According to the transcript, it wasn't a major action sequence, a spectacular concert recreation, or an elaborate visual effect. Instead, it was a simple scene during production that revealed just how completely Jaafar Jackson had immersed himself in portraying his late uncle. The source explains that as rehearsals progressed and filming began, cast and crew members gradually stopped seeing an actor preparing for a role. For brief moments, they found themselves reacting to the familiar movements, expressions, and quiet mannerisms that had made Michael Jackson one of the most recognizable entertainers in history. It was during one of those scenes that many people reportedly realized this project had become far more than an ordinary biographical film. According to the transcript, the production had invested months in preparing for exactly this kind of authenticity. Jaafar studied Michael's performances, rehearsed countless hours with choreographers, and worked closely with the creative team to understand not only how Michael danced, but how he carried himself between performances. Costume designers recreated iconic wardrobe pieces with meticulous attention to detail, while makeup artists carefully refined every aspect of his appearance. The source suggests that when all of these elements finally came together during filming, the transformation became remarkably convincing. Crew members who had spent years watching Michael's concerts reportedly paused to appreciate what they were witnessing, while fellow actors found their performances becoming more natural because Jaafar's portrayal felt increasingly genuine. The transcript presents this scene as a turning point in the production, strengthening everyone's confidence that they were honoring Michael's legacy with exceptional care. Looking back, the transcript argues that this moment captured the true purpose of the entire project. The goal was never simply to recreate famous performances or imitate a legendary entertainer. According to the source, the filmmakers wanted audiences to experience the person behind the global icon, the dedication, humanity, and artistry that defined Michael Jackson's life. That single scene became a reminder of why months of preparation, endless rehearsals, and extraordinary attention to detail mattered so much. It demonstrated that authenticity is built gradually, through hundreds of small creative decisions, rather than one spectacular performance. As the documentary continues, the focus shifts to the remarkable transformation that made this possible. In the next chapter, we explore how Jaafar Jackson prepared for one of the most demanding roles of his career, and why so many people believe his portrayal has become the heart of the Michael biopic. Why Jaafar couldn't hold back his emotions. Portraying Michael Jackson was never going to be just another acting role for Jaafar Jackson. According to the transcript, stepping into the life of his late uncle carried a level of personal responsibility that few actors ever experience. This was not simply about learning choreography or memorizing dialogue. It meant revisiting family memories, recreating deeply emotional moments, and bringing to life someone he had known through both family stories and personal experiences. The source explains that as filming progressed, the emotional weight of that responsibility became increasingly evident. There were moments when Jaafar wasn't simply performing a scene, he was reliving a chapter of his own family's history. That emotional connection, the transcript suggests, became one of the defining qualities of his performance. According to the transcript, months of preparation allowed Jaafar to understand Michael on a level that extended beyond public performances. He immersed himself in rehearsal footage, studied Michael's body language, worked alongside experienced choreographers, and spent time exploring the Jackson family's personal history. The source explains that this preparation was not intended to create an imitation, but to capture the spirit, humility, and humanity that existed behind the global superstar. As emotionally significant scenes were filmed, the boundary between preparation and personal connection sometimes became difficult to separate. The transcript describes how the atmosphere on set often grew noticeably quieter during these moments, with cast and crew recognizing the importance of what was unfolding before the cameras. For Jaafar, portraying Michael was not only an artistic challenge, it was also a deeply personal tribute to a beloved member of his family. Looking back, the transcript suggests that these emotional moments may become some of the most powerful scenes in the finished film. Rather than relying solely on visual resemblance or technical precision, Jaafar's performance was shaped by genuine affection, respect, and an understanding of the person behind the legend. According to the source, that emotional authenticity became something the entire production could feel, strengthening the performances of everyone around him. It reminded the cast and crew that they were telling more than the story of an international icon. They were telling the story of a son, a brother, an uncle, and a human being whose life touched millions around the world. As the documentary continues, however, the emotional moments were balanced by something entirely unexpected. Even during one of Hollywood's most demanding productions, there were unforgettable moments of laughter that nobody saw coming. Those surprising stories become the focus of the next chapter. The funniest, behind-the-scenes moments nobody expected. When people imagine the production of a film about Michael Jackson, they often picture endless rehearsals, demanding choreography, and the pressure of recreating one of the greatest entertainers in history. According to the transcript, those challenges were certainly part of the experience. But there was another side to the production that audiences rarely see. Between emotionally intense scenes and hours of technical preparation, the set was frequently filled with laughter. The source explains that many of the funniest moments happened completely by accident, reminding everyone that even the most carefully planned productions can be transformed by unexpected events. Those unscripted moments not only lifted the mood, but also helped build the close friendships that carried the cast and crew through months of filming. One of the stories highlighted in the transcript involves a rehearsal featuring Jaafar Jackson, the actors portraying Catherine and Joe Jackson, and the chimpanzee cast as Bubbles. What was supposed to be a routine rehearsal suddenly took an unexpected turn when the chimp reportedly mimicked one of Jaafar's facial expressions with remarkable accuracy. According to the source, the surprise was so perfectly timed that the entire cast and crew burst into laughter, forcing filming to pause while everyone regained their composure. Although the transcript notes that the exact details of the incident have not been officially confirmed, it presents the story as one of the production's most memorable behind-the-scenes moments. Rather than interrupting the creative process, moments like these helped relieve the pressure that naturally came with recreating Michael Jackson's extraordinary life. According to the transcript, these lighthearted experiences became an important part of the production's identity. Long rehearsal days, repeated takes, and emotionally demanding performances required extraordinary concentration, making moments of humor especially valuable. Cast members encouraged one another, crew members shared jokes between camera setups, and laughter often echoed across the set before everyone returned to work with renewed energy. The source suggests that these candid interactions strengthened relationships throughout the production and reminded everyone why filmmaking is ultimately a collaborative effort. Behind every carefully choreographed dance sequence and every emotional scene was a group of people who genuinely enjoyed working together. As the documentary continues, the atmosphere shifts once again. In the next chapter, we explore one of the most powerful moments of the entire production, when the director called "cut," yet nobody on set said a single word because they were still absorbing what they had just witnessed. The crew fell silent after the director said, "cut." On most film sets, the moment a director calls "cut," the atmosphere changes almost instantly. Crew members begin resetting equipment, actors step out of character, and conversations quickly resume. But according to the transcript, there were several occasions during the production of the Michael biopic when that didn't happen. Instead, the set remained unusually quiet. For a few brief seconds, no one moved, no one spoke. The source explains that these moments came after particularly emotional performances, when everyone present seemed to need a moment to process what they had just witnessed. Rather than immediately preparing for the next take, cast and crew simply stood in silence, reflecting on scenes that carried enormous emotional weight. It was an unusual reaction on a busy film production, and one that many people involved would later remember long after filming ended. According to the transcript, those moments were the result of months of careful preparation. Jaafar Jackson had spent countless hours studying Michael's movements, voice, expressions, and personality, working alongside choreographers and the creative team to portray not just the performer, but the person behind the legend. By the time filming reached some of the movie's most emotional sequences, that preparation had become deeply visible in his performance. The source suggests that after certain takes, the emotional intensity lingered even after the cameras stopped rolling. Crew members reportedly remained focused on what they had just seen before gradually returning to the practical work of filmmaking. Rather than applause or celebration, the first response was often quiet reflection, a sign, according to the transcript, of the respect everyone felt for both the story they were telling and the man whose life they were portraying. Looking back, the transcript argues that these silent moments reveal something important about the production itself. The Michael biopic was never intended to rely solely on spectacular concerts or visual recreations. It also sought to capture the emotional reality behind one of the world's most famous entertainers. According to the source, those few seconds after the director called "cut" became a powerful reminder that filmmaking is not only about technical precision, it is also about creating performances that genuinely move the people witnessing them. For the cast and crew, those quiet pauses became some of the most unforgettable experiences of the entire production. As the documentary continues, the story shifts once again, from emotional performances to the lighter side of life behind the cameras, where unexpected moments of humor helped balance the intensity of bringing Michael Jackson's extraordinary story to the screen. Living Michael's life became emotionally overwhelming. As filming entered its most demanding stages, the transcript suggests that portraying Michael Jackson became about far more than learning dance routines or delivering dialogue. According to the source, Jaafar Jackson had now spent months immersed in Michael's world, studying his performances, adopting his mannerisms, wearing replicas of his iconic costumes, and recreating some of the most significant moments of his life. Day after day, The distinction between preparing for the role and emotionally experiencing the story became increasingly difficult to separate. The production was no longer simply recreating history. It was asking its lead actor to revisit the triumphs, struggles, and deeply personal experiences of a member of his own family. The transcript presents this as one of the greatest emotional challenges faced during the entire production. According to the transcript, there were days when the emotional weight of certain scenes lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. Jaafar was not portraying an unfamiliar historical figure. He was honoring someone whose influence remained deeply woven into his family's history. The source explains that this personal connection brought an authenticity to many performances, but it also required remarkable emotional resilience. Scenes involving Michael's private life, his relationships, and the pressures surrounding his career demanded far more than technical accuracy. They required empathy, sensitivity, and an understanding of experiences that extended well beyond public performances. The transcript suggests that everyone on set recognized this responsibility, creating an atmosphere where cast and crew quietly supported one another during the most emotionally demanding moments of filming. Looking back, the transcript argues that these emotional challenges became one of the defining strengths of the Michael biopic. Rather than focusing solely on recreating famous concerts or iconic music videos, the production also sought to capture the humanity behind one of the world's most celebrated entertainers. According to the source, that commitment required patience, trust, and extraordinary dedication from everyone involved, especially Jaafar Jackson. The emotional investment behind each performance became part of what made the production feel so authentic to those who witnessed it firsthand. While audiences will eventually judge the finished film on screen, the documentary suggests that one of its greatest achievements may be the sincerity with which the cast approached Michael's story. As the next chapter reveals, that sincerity reached its highest point when the filmmakers faced the enormous challenge of recreating Michael Jackson's most legendary performances, moments that demanded absolute perfection before a single frame could be considered complete. The Jackson family's emotional reaction. For everyone involved in the Michael biopic, there was one audience whose opinion mattered more than any critic or box office result: the Jackson family themselves. According to the transcript, bringing Michael Jackson's life to the screen carried an extraordinary responsibility. Because the story was deeply personal to those who had lived it, every performance, every recreated family moment, and every emotional scene would inevitably be viewed through the eyes of people who knew Michael not as a global icon, but as a son, a brother, an uncle, and a family member. The source explains that this awareness remained at the forefront of the production throughout filming, encouraging the cast and crew to approach every scene with care, authenticity, and respect. According to the transcript, Jaafar Jackson felt that responsibility more than anyone else. As Michael's nephew, he was not simply portraying a legendary entertainer, he was representing someone whose memory remained deeply connected to his own family. The source explains that this personal connection influenced the way he prepared for the role, encouraging him to study not only Michael's performances, but also his personality, humility, and private moments away from the spotlight. Throughout production, the goal was never merely to resemble Michael physically. Instead, the filmmakers worked to capture the warmth, compassion, and dedication that those closest to him remembered. The transcript suggests that this commitment to authenticity became one of the reasons many people involved believed the film carried a unique emotional depth that extended beyond traditional biographical storytelling. Looking back, the transcript argues that the greatest measure of success for the production was not simply recreating famous concerts or iconic music videos. It was creating a film that honored Michael Jackson's life in a way that felt sincere to the people who knew him best. According to the source, every department, from choreography and costume design to acting and cinematography, worked toward that shared objective. Rather than chasing spectacle alone, the production sought to preserve the humanity behind one of the world's most celebrated performers. As the documentary continues, the focus shifts once again from emotion to craftsmanship. The next chapter explores the extraordinary effort required to recreate Michael's most legendary performances, revealing why months of rehearsals and painstaking attention to detail became essential to bringing those unforgettable moments back to life. Why this scene may define the entire movie. Every great biographical film has one defining moment, a scene that captures the heart of its story and leaves a lasting impression long after the credits roll. According to the transcript, many people involved in the Michael biopic believe there is one sequence that could become exactly that. The source does not describe it as the biggest concert recreation or the most technically demanding dance routine. Instead, it suggests that the scene stands out because of its emotional honesty. After months of rehearsals, character study, and meticulous preparation, the cast and crew reached a point where the performance no longer felt like a recreation. For those present on set, it became a deeply human portrayal of Michael Jackson, revealing not only the legendary entertainer, but also the person behind the global fame. According to the transcript, the power of this sequence came from everything that had been built throughout production. Jaafar Jackson had spent months studying Michael's voice, body language, and personality, while choreographers, costume designers, and the creative team worked together to recreate every detail with extraordinary precision. By the time filming reached this pivotal scene, those countless hours of preparation had become almost invisible. The source explains that the performance unfolded naturally, allowing emotions to take precedence over technique. Crew members who had witnessed every stage of Jaafar's transformation reportedly recognized that something special had happened. Rather than focusing on how closely he resembled Michael physically, many found themselves responding to the emotional authenticity of the moment itself. The transcript suggests that this quiet shift, from admiration of imitation to genuine emotional connection, may become one of the film's greatest achievements. Looking back, the transcript argues that this scene represents the purpose of the entire Michael biopic. It is not simply about recreating history or revisiting famous performances. It is about helping audiences reconnect with the humanity of one of the world's most celebrated entertainers. According to the source, every rehearsal, every costume fitting, every emotional conversation, and every behind-the-scenes challenge led toward creating moments like this. Moments where audiences no longer see actors portraying historical figures, but instead become fully immersed in the story itself. If the film succeeds in leaving a lasting impression, the documentary suggests it will be because of scenes like this, where authenticity, emotion, and craftsmanship come together in perfect balance. As the documentary approaches its conclusion, one final chapter remains, celebrating the behind-the-scenes journey that transformed an ambitious production into one of the most anticipated musical films in recent years. The pressure of becoming Michael Jackson. Few actors are ever asked to portray someone as instantly recognizable as Michael Jackson. According to the transcript, everyone involved in the Michael biopic understood that audiences would examine every detail, from a single dance move to the smallest facial expression. For Jaafar Jackson, that meant stepping into a role unlike any other. He wasn't simply expected to resemble Michael, he had to capture the confidence, humility, charisma, and quiet personality that existed behind decades of global fame. The source explains that this responsibility became one of the greatest challenges of the entire production. Every rehearsal carried the knowledge that millions of lifelong fans would eventually compare his performance to memories that had been etched into popular culture for generations. According to the transcript, meeting those expectations required extraordinary preparation. Jaafar devoted months to studying Michael's performances, observing his body language, listening to his speaking voice, and rehearsing alongside experienced choreographers determined to recreate every movement with precision. The production team surrounded him with specialists who understood Michael's artistry, ensuring that costumes, choreography, camera work, and performances all worked together to create a believable portrayal. Yet the source suggests that technical accuracy alone was never enough. The real challenge was portraying the humanity behind the icon, the kindness, discipline, vulnerability, and determination that defined Michael away from the stage. As filming progressed, Jaafar reportedly became increasingly immersed in the role, allowing those qualities to emerge naturally rather than through simple imitation. Looking back, the transcript argues that the pressure of becoming Michael Jackson ultimately became one of the film's greatest strengths. Instead of allowing expectations to become overwhelming, the cast and crew used them as motivation to pursue authenticity in every scene. According to the source, the months of preparation, emotional commitment, and relentless attention to detail gradually transformed an ambitious project into something far more personal. What audiences will eventually see is not simply an actor recreating famous moments, but the result of an entire production united by the desire to honor one of the most influential entertainers in history. As the documentary approaches its conclusion, one final chapter remains. It reflects on why so many people who worked on the film believe this project represents much more than a biopic. It is a tribute to Michael Jackson's enduring legacy and the countless lives his music continues to inspire around the world. What this moment reveals about Jaafar's performance. As filming drew closer to completion, the transcript suggests that many people on set had begun to see Jaafar Jackson's performance in a different way. At the beginning of production, the challenge had seemed almost impossible. Portraying one of the most recognizable entertainers in history while carrying the expectations of millions of fans. But according to the source, there came a moment when conversations shifted. Instead of discussing how closely Jaafar resembled Michael Jackson, people began focusing on the emotion and authenticity of his performance. That change, the transcript argues, revealed something far more important than physical resemblance. It showed that audiences may eventually stop seeing an actor portraying Michael and instead become fully engaged with the story unfolding before them. According to the transcript, this transformation was the result of months of relentless preparation. Jaafar had immersed himself in Michael's world through choreography, character study, family history, and extensive rehearsal. Every movement was carefully refined, but the source explains that the most meaningful progress happened in the quieter moments. As filming continued, Jaafar gradually captured the calm confidence, humility, and emotional presence that defined Michael away from the stage. Crew members reportedly noticed that scenes no longer depended solely on famous dance moves or iconic costumes. Instead, the emotional connection between the actors began carrying the performances. The transcript suggests that this was one of the clearest signs that the production had achieved its original goal, portraying Michael Jackson as a complete human being rather than simply recreating a public image. Looking back, the transcript argues that this moment may ultimately define how audiences remember Jaafar's portrayal. The greatest compliment for any biographical performance is not that it perfectly imitates its subject, but that it allows viewers to forget they are watching an imitation at all. According to the source, the dedication shown throughout production, from endless rehearsals to emotional performances and extraordinary attention to detail, built toward exactly that achievement. If the Michael biopic succeeds in connecting with audiences around the world, it will likely be because of performances rooted in sincerity rather than spectacle. As the documentary reaches its final chapter, one question remains: what lasting legacy will this film leave for Michael Jackson's fans and for a new generation discovering his extraordinary story for the very first time? That answer awaits in the conclusion. The scene fans may never forget. Every great film leaves audiences with one unforgettable image, one scene that continues to resonate long after the credits have finished rolling. According to the transcript, many people involved in the Michael biopic believe this film has moments capable of creating that lasting impression. Yet the source suggests that the most memorable scene may not be defined by elaborate choreography, dazzling visual effects, or sold-out stadium performance. Instead, it may be remembered because it captures something far more difficult to recreate: the humanity of Michael Jackson. Throughout months of filming, the cast and crew worked toward a single goal: not simply to imitate one of history's greatest performers, but to help audiences reconnect with the person behind the legend. That commitment, according to the transcript, is what gives the film its emotional heart. Looking back across that production, the transcript describes a journey filled with extraordinary dedication. Jaafar Jackson devoted himself to understanding Michael's movements, personality, and artistic spirit. Choreographers meticulously recreated iconic performances, costume designers reproduced legendary outfits, and every department contributed countless hours to achieving authenticity. Along the way, there were demanding rehearsals, emotional scenes, technical challenges, and unforgettable moments of laughter that brought the cast and crew even closer together. According to the source, those shared experiences became just as important as the finished scenes themselves. They created an atmosphere built on trust, respect, and admiration for Michael's legacy, qualities that ultimately shaped every frame of the film. The transcript concludes that when audiences finally experience the Michael biopic, they will be watching far more than the story of a global superstar. They will be seeing the result of hundreds of people working together to honor a life that transformed music, dance, and popular culture forever. According to the source, if there is one scene that fans will never forget, it will not simply be because it recreates an iconic moment from Michael's career. It will be because it reminds viewers of the compassion, dedication, creativity, and humanity that existed behind the spotlight. That, the documentary suggests, is the true achievement of the production. It is not only a celebration of Michael Jackson's remarkable career, but also a tribute to the person whose influence continues to inspire artists and audiences across generations. And perhaps that is the greatest legacy any film about Michael Jackson could hope to leave behind. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into the remarkable stories behind music's greatest legends. Until next time, thank you for watching.